How you doing, my friends? Thank you so much for coming to the Jovenshire channel. Yes, I am the Jovenshire, and this is my channel where we cover all things movies, geek, gaming, TV, superheroes, just all things geek culture here in one place. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, because if you like this video, I think you're gonna like the other things that we do here. And if you're a longtime fan and you don't have notifications on, turn that right around, because I wanna make sure you see these videos. Let's get started today. Deadpool 2 came out this last weekend, and whoo! Ooh, what a ride, am I right? Now, this is gonna be, we're gonna do a little review, like a mini review, because there's one big thing that I do want to talk about, and that part is slightly spoilery. It's kind of a spoiler. It's something that happens at the beginning of the movie, so if you don't care too much, then you can watch that part of the video, but we're gonna talk about just my overall feel about the movie first, so if you haven't seen the movie, you're okay. You don't need to click away yet. I will tell you when you need to click away if you don't want to be spoiled. Let's get into it. Deadpool 2, I was very excited for, but also very weary about, because there were a lot of reshoots for this movie. When you do have a character like Deadpool who has the mask on the whole time, it's very easy to switch jokes up, change new things, so it was to be expected for them to maybe add some Disney jokes or some Thanos jokes or something along those lines, because it's just easy to do. I was excited for this movie because I loved the first Deadpool. Thought it was magical. One of my favorite superhero movies of all time. But as I've talked about this before, it's very easy for a movie like Guardians or Iron Man to bring you something that's new and exciting, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is different. I wanted this. I didn't know I needed this in my life. And then for them to try to capitalize on the second one doesn't normally do that well, because it doesn't have the same magic. With Deadpool 2, I will admit, they reused a lot of jokes. And sometimes they would reuse the same joke a few times in the movie. For example, they made a lazy writing joke where this isn't a spoiler. Deadpool breaks the fourth wall and calls the situation lazy writing. Honestly, they did that twice. Had they done it one more time, it would have just been, you know, lazy writing. And then some of the jokes that they did add in, I thought was interesting, because, first of all, I thought all of Deadpool's lines were ADR, so they just voice-overed lines in the first place. Maybe that wasn't the case, because there was one section where they clearly added new lines of dialogue and just changed the lines up, and you could tell, because audibly, it just sounds way different, to the point where it was jarring, and I was like, oh, okay, so this sounds different. I guess this was some added jokes, which I didn't think were very funny. So if you're gonna add jokes, I'd expect them to be a lot better than before. Now, right now, it sounds like I didn't like the movie. That is not the case. I very much enjoyed this movie. I do think it was as good as the first one. Some might argue that they liked it more than the first one. For me, the first one just had that magic that you can't really do twice, because the first one was something different in a time where we were getting cookie cutter superhero movies. There were a lot of great jokes. I laughed a lot. I feel like the action was even better. I think it got a little more gruesome at times. I said it on Twitter, and I knew I was gonna be right. Domino is one of my new favorite superheroes. I love what they did with her. I like how they played off her superpower of her just being a very lucky character, and I thought that was really good. So Domino was great. Deadpool was great. There's a lot of Easter eggs. There's just everything about Deadpool was great. What I want to talk about today, though, is the spoilery part. The spoilers are now coming, because there is something that they did in this movie that I really like about Deadpool in the comics. It's one of my favorite things about Deadpool in the comics. That's his infatuation with death. Now, in the comics, Deadpool has been in love with quite a few different people. In the movies, we see his relationship with Vanessa, which is amazing. I love their relationship. The person, though, that Deadpool has been in love with that I loved the most was his relationship with death. And I'm not talking about him wanting to die, but the actual personification of death. In the Marvel Universe, death is perceived as a female character, and Deadpool is in love with death. And it's funny, because there's Deadpool versus Thanos, that comic series where Thanos is also in love with death, you know, and that's why he kills so many people, because he wants to show death that, hey, I love you, look what I can do for you. Whereas Deadpool is just like, hey girl, what's up? In the comics, Deadpool is constantly trying to die so that he can spend more time with death. And of course, he gets ripped away because he can't die and he comes back. And in this movie, right near the beginning, they kill off Vanessa. And obviously this is a big moment for Deadpool's character. It's not something I saw coming. I thought it was very interesting that they decided to do that. But then they do the thing in the comics where Deadpool keeps trying to die, so Deadpool can spend a little bit more time with the person that he loves. In this case, it's Vanessa. It's not necessarily death. But I thought that was a very interesting and unique take on what kind of makes Deadpool a human character. Because it's very easy for Deadpool to break the fourth wall and just kind of be this fun, wacky character, but the moment that he's got like a human side to him, and it gives him a nice little base of who he is, I think it's great. I think it's a great writing move for him, and to give that same relationship that he has with Death, but now with Vanessa, it really stood out to me as one of my favorite things from the comics that they did in this movie. So just in case if you didn't know that was a thing in the comics, now you do. If I could talk about something I didn't like about the movie, is at the end, Cable winds up going back in time to save Deadpool, who also saves the kid, which in turn will save Cable's wife and child. I get that this is a comic book movie, but anytime you mess with time travel, you gotta follow the rules. You have to stay as logical as you possibly can to a timeline, and this doesn't make sense to me, because Deadpool goes back in time to save Deadpool. Wait, so Cable goes back in time to save Deadpool, but then so that Deadpool can survive, and it was the last charge. So after he does this, he can't go back to his wife and child. And Deadpool's like, why'd you do this? And Cable's like, my wife and kid, they're good. I'm gonna stick around here and save the day for a little bit. That doesn't make any sense, because now you're altering the timeline, and now what's gonna happen is Cable will never meet his wife, who will then never have their child. So everything Cable did was for naught. It was for nothing. Nothing. But it's a comic book movie, and then in the post-credit scene, Deadpool winds up going further back in time to stop Vanessa from dying. So that's gonna be a whole new timeline, and then Cable's gotta come back to that timeline in order to kill the bad guy kid, so that, I don't know. Okay, so now we're just dealing with timelines, and it's confusing. That was my take on Deadpool 2. In short, I loved it. I think it was as good as the first movie. I did like the first one more because of the magic. There was some stuff in this movie that kind of irked me, but at the same time, still great, wonderful watch. I loved it. Great job to the entire team that made the movie. And of course, the nod to the comics where Deadpool has to keep dying to find the person that he loves. I think that's wonderful. I hope that we get a Deadpool Cable movie or Deadpool and X-Force movie. I was a little bugged that they killed a bunch of the X-Force characters, but I guess now they're back to life because, again, he went back to save Vanessa, which then changed the timeline. Anything can happen, and thank you so much for tuning in and watch this movie, because now I want to talk to you guys. Let's try to keep it spoiler-free in the comments below, because I do want to hear your take on it, and let's talk back and forth, but let's not ruin the movie for people that haven't seen it yet, because it did just come out this last weekend. And again, if you're new to this channel and you like what you saw today, please hit that subscribe button. I am the Jovenshire. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram if you want other hot takes on movies and comic books and video games all over the place. Until the next time, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you later.